mynews.studio.
So picture this. It's 2025, and along Mozambique's coastline, there are rows of wind turbines, while in China, factories are running on clean energy. Does this mean we finally managed to grow economies without growing carbon emissions?
And just to set the date, today is 2025-12-16. For a long time, it was assumed that economic growth automatically led to higher emissions. But now, there's this new report from the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. It finds that 92% of the world's GDP comes from countries where economic growth is now separated from CO2 emissions. That's 113 countries, covering 97% of global output. Could this be the turning point for both climate and prosperity?
It's a major change, really. Before the Paris Agreement, only about 38% of the world's GDP had achieved what's called absolute decoupling, where economies grew and emissions actually fell. Now, that number has jumped. More countries are joining in: Norway, Switzerland, the UK, the US, and the EU. But what stands out are the emerging economies, places like Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, Jordan, Mozambique. What's allowing these countries to make progress?
That's exactly what I was wondering. Take Egypt, for instance. They've ramped up both solar and wind to meet growing electricity demand, but their emissions haven't gone up. Mozambique, on the other hand, has really focused on hydropower. With international aid, they've managed to build clean infrastructure instead of locking in fossil fuels. Is that a model that could work in other countries too?
Yes, and the report talks about China as well. For a year and a half, China's emissions have pretty much held steady, even as its economy continues to grow. That's thanks to renewables meeting a 6.1% increase in power demand, 240 gigawatts of new solar, 61 of wind, just this year. Transport emissions actually fell 5%, mostly because of electric vehicles. Even cement and steel are cleaner now, with new low-carbon production methods coming in. Does this mean the old idea that climate progress and economic growth are mutually exclusive is finally over?
It's starting to look that way. And beyond China, Europe's expanded wind and solar, and both the US and the EU have managed to separate growth from emissions by changing imports and boosting clean energy. The UK, for example, keeps cutting emissions year after year. What's behind all this progress? Good policy? Technology? Something else?
It's really a mix. In advanced economies, efficiency and clean power are key. But for emerging economies, access to international finance and technology transfers is huge. Organizations like the UN and World Bank are stepping in with grants and sharing new tech. That's helped countries like Egypt and Mozambique skip over fossil fuels. So, does this mean the global financial system is finally supporting real change?
International support seems crucial, especially for countries with fewer resources. But there's still the issue of heavy industry. Sectors like steel and cement are tough to decarbonize. How are those being addressed?
Great point. In China, electric arc furnaces are helping clean up steel production. Oil refineries are shifting to make more chemicals rather than transport fuels. Plus, there are pilot projects to add over 200 gigawatts of clean energy each year, enough to keep up with demand and hold emissions steady. Some projections say if this keeps up, global emissions could drop by 2.6% a year. But is that enough for the 2030 targets?
It's a big goal, but the trend is definitely positive. The ECIU even calls this wave of decoupling unstoppable. More and more countries are seeing emissions go down as economies grow. With clean energy outpacing fossil fuels, maybe prosperity and sustainability can finally go together. But overall, global emissions are still rising a little. What does that mean for what comes next?
It shows the solutions are there, but scale and speed are what matter now. Countries have examples to follow from those who've already decoupled. They need to keep building renewables and invest in sectors that are hardest to clean up. As John Lang said, decoupling is now the norm, not the exception. Will governments and businesses act quickly enough?
And that's the crux of it. This is about challenging the old belief that you have to choose between growth and the climate. Now, the evidence shows they can move together. The real question is, will the rest of the world make the leap before climate risks become too severe?
So today, we've seen how countries from Mozambique to China are breaking the old link between economic growth and emissions. With new policies and clean technology, there's more proof than ever that prosperity doesn't have to come at the planet's expense.
Thanks for being with us as we unpack the facts behind this global change. Who's leading, what's working, and where challenges remain.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. Give it a try. It's free.